I want you to think about a horse. Not like a pretty horse, but a workhorse. The kind that spent 16 hours a day plowing fields and hauling grain and basically doing the majority of the physical labor that kept the American economy running in the 1800s. Now I want you to think about what happened to that horse when the tractor showed up. The invention of the tractor was a genuinely terrifying time to be a human farmer. Mechanization completely upended the labor market. In the 1920s, roughly 1 in 3 Americans worked on a farm. Today, it's closer to 1 in 100, and yet the country produces more food. That's the miracle of economic progress. Productivity went through the roof, and over time, more jobs got created in manufacturing and services than there were ever lost in agriculture. So that's the comforting historical narrative. Humans adapt, we retrain, we figured out how to do jobs that tractors couldn't because we had the skills and the creativity and opposable thumbs and whatever. The horses didn't get that memo. Workhorse population in America went from tens of millions down to basically nothing because there was no retraining program for horses. There were no comparative advantages left for them. The machine didn't just do their job better, it made their entire existence economically irrelevant. So here is the actual question, the one that the smartest people building AI even cannot fully agree upon. In the AI revolution, are we the farmers or are we the horses? Alright, I know what you're thinking. You were thinking, okay, but my job is fine. And look, maybe it is. But let's actually look at how to figure that out because there's a pretty elegant framework for this and it's genuinely useful. Call it the verification rule. It's nowhere near an accident that coding was the first thing to get obliterated by AI. Like Claude Code suddenly comes out and the entire software industry is having a quiet panic attack. But why coding first? 2 reasons. 1, the internet is swimming in high quality coding training data. Think about every GitHub repository, Stack Overflow thread, and open source project ever uploaded. It's all just sitting there, perfectly structured. But 2, and this is the part that really matters, code can be instantly verified. Think about what that actually means. Claude writes a program, it runs the program, it checks, does this do the thing that I asked it to do? If no, it tries again. It can run the loop tens of millions of times, and every single test it runs becomes new training data. It is essentially teaching itself to be better at machine speed in real time. Honestly, that goes beyond automation because now it has become this self-improving system that essentially has unlimited practice time and 0 coffee breaks. Now apply that to your job and ask yourself 2 very important questions. Is there a ton of publicly available data for what I primarily do? And can the output of my work be instantly checked for accuracy by a machine? If both answers are yes, you're not in a great position right now. If your answer to either question is no, say your work involves highly specialized knowledge that isn't on the internet, or it requires human subjective judgment that cannot be graded automatically, you've probably got more time and runway. But I want to be honest with you because I think you deserve that. Over a 25-year time frame, it is very hard to identify any job that is completely safe. We're just talking about the order of operations here, which brings us to a concept that is actively terrifying Silicon Valley right now, and that's the SaaS apocalypse. Here's something about the American software industry that most people don't think about. The reason companies like Salesforce even exist, the whole software as a service model, is because for decades the United States had a massive shortage of software engineers. Coders were expensive, they were rare, so instead of every company building their own custom software, we just subscribe to the same generic platforms. Salesforce for sales, Workday for HR, ServiceNow for IT. It's a little bit like everyone on the street renting the same 3-bedroom apartment because building your own house is too expensive. But then look at China. The software ecosystem in China looks quite different. They have an absolute abundance of software engineers because human capital is so available. The SaaS business model barely exists over there. Companies don't subscribe to generic software. They just hire a bunch of in-house developers to build completely custom, bespoke tools that do exactly what their specific company needs them to do. So what happens when AI suddenly gives every American company access to essentially unlimited software engineers? Why would you pay a monthly subscription for a generic slice of Salesforce software that was not designed specifically for you, that you're only using about 15% of, that requires an entire internal team just to administer, when you could spin up AI agents that build you something perfect, custom, and exactly right for your company? The bottleneck that made SaaS companies worth hundreds hundreds of billions of dollars is breaking. And every company that built its entire business model on the bottlenecks need to have a very convincing answer to why the tsunami isn't coming for them. I don't think most of them have the answer yet. Now let's talk about the Pentagon quickly, because the most interesting AI disruption story isn't even happening in the Silicon Valley. It's happening in the US government, and it involves a contract dispute that could genuinely blow up one of America's most important AI companies. Here's the situation, and some of you already know it. Anthropic's Claude was until recently a favored model for delivering real and meaningful military intelligence advantage. The Wall Street Journal reported that the raid on Maduro was enabled by offensive cyber capabilities that literally would not have been possible without Claude. Now here's the problem. Anthropic apparently put restrictions on how their AI can be used. They had a few of them, but they walked back on many, but there's still 2 left. They don't want Claude to be used for mass domestic surveillance, and they don't want it used to operate autonomous lethal weapons without a human in the loop. And the US government's position is that those 2 restrictions are unacceptable. They want a contract that covers lawful uses, full stop, no carve-outs, because when national security and human lives are on the line, the military does not want to be on hold with tech support arguing about terms of service. It's also reported that Russia is already running lethal autonomous drone systems in Ukraine right now using AI, making decisions without a human. I guess the Pentagon doesn't want to be outpaced by that because their AI vendor has philosophical objections. But then the whole thing escalated publicly very fast. They threatened to designate Anthropic as a supply chain risk. If that designation truly lands, it doesn't just end their military contract, it could prevent any company that supplies to the US military from working with Anthropic. That potentially is a downward spiral for their commercial business. Billions of revenue gone in an instant. The White House is calling the AI race with China the technological equivalent of the Cold War space race. And the Pentagon is threatening to light one of America's best rockets on fire because they want slightly looser terms on a $200 million contract. The reason why I talk about the Pentagon aspect is because nobody fully understands or knows how this whole thing is going to unfold. Not the creators of the AI models, not the users, and definitely not everyday people. I mean, forget about the higher order effects. We barely seem to be grasping the first order effects in many cases. While you ponder over all of that, let me leave you with one other thing. How fast do you think this is actually moving? Like, what's the real timeline here? The CEO of DeepMind, who is widely considered a skeptic in this conversation, thinks we'll hit the point where AI can do everything a human can, but better and cheaper in about 10 years. Dario Amodei, the CEO of Anthropic, thinks it's 18 to 24 months. When Amazon was still a bookstore, Jeff Bezos was asked if he felt guilty about destroying brick and mortar retail. He said Amazon isn't putting those stores out of business. The future is putting those stores out of business. Amazon is just the herald. I think about that a lot lately. Every generation thinks that they're living through the most radical transformative moment in human history. And most of them are at least a little wrong about that. But some of them are less wrong, and some generations really do live through the thing that changes everything. The question isn't whether to panic. Panicking isn't a strategy. The question is whether you're spending time right now figuring out what humans can do that AI genuinely cannot, and then getting ready and really good at that before the clock runs out. Be the farmer, not the horse.